Welcome everybody to WTF, Wholesome TwinFlame Coaching. I apologize ahead of time for the fuzziness, but I'm actually live. Sometimes I do record the shows ahead of time, also in order to answer questions more thoroughly and to have a better quality of video. However, today is going to be live, but the downside is that I do that with my phone, which has an excellent camera, unfortunately on the other side of it. Anyway, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Ronja Vieth. I am a Bliss-Life coach and meditation instructor. I am also an energy healer. And I have finally, throughout the years, put all my skills together and keep developing new gifts and discovering new gifts. But I focus on Bliss-Life coaching now. That means I help people move from their past painful experiences, the past emotional trauma that we've accumulated throughout life, to a place of bliss so that we can enjoy life and especially love better and more thoroughly. And that has actually gotten me to the Twin Flame coaching, which I initially did with a good friend of mine in Texas, Jason. However, since he's also in a twin flame relationship and needed some space from this whole topic, he has kind of bowed out a little bit in January. So ever since, I have been doing these shows on my own. All right. So I've been trying to think what to talk about. And then last minute, somebody had a couple of things that they wanted me to talk about. And I'm really grateful for that, which brings me to the point that I'd really like to encourage every one of you to leave comments, to write me on my Facebook page and globe me, or to sign up for the newsletter and get into email touch with me as well, so that I can either do live coaching with you on one of my Monday shows, or at least answer your questions, because it's always more fruitful when I have a particular scenario, a particular case that I can tune into intuitively, connect with spirit and give answers, and help you that way move forward with you and your twin flame as a couple or separately even. So this is not just for people who have not yet met their twin flame or for people who are in a twin flame relationship. This is for everybody who's just simply interested, because obviously this kind of coaching about twin flames can be very specific because it's a very specific kind of relationship. On the other hand, obviously the tools that I talk about, that I teach, are helpful for any kind of relationship, whether it's with yourself or with other people, whether it's with a romantic relationship or any regular relationship, because we are all interacting. Everything that we find in another person is a reflection of something inside of us. And the more we engage with our own personal spiritual development, the more we are being given scenarios and opportunities through other people, in the form of other people, to grow beyond a limitation that we have, a block that we have, some wound that we need to heal, some trauma that we've been neglecting or didn't even know about, so that we can move further and further into the light being that we really are, the God creation that we are. So let me just move the camera back a little bit. Sorry, I think I'm a bit close. I want people to be able to look up my nose. It's not necessary. It's better. Okay, so something that has been coming up for quite a few people, and that oddly came up with the comment that came in last minute today, was the push-pull, the dichotomy, the opposite needs. Pretty much the topic of dichotomy and opposition. In twin flame relationships, as we have talked about before, it's very often the case that when one person wants to be close, the other person wants space, and vice versa. The moments of alignment seem very rare at times. they're there at the beginning very often. That's when you feel this bliss and this absolute harmony and this absolute alignment as a couple and as a couple with the divine, and hence, the immeasurable bliss that you can feel in a twin flame relationship. But then when you start noticing that the twin flame relationship is really a catalyst for personal development on a much grander scale than any other relationship, usually. There's often this conflict of whether people should break up and just move away from each other, which a lot of couples do, or whether they should just stick it out together, which they sometimes feel they cannot, or if they decide to stick it out together, how would that go down because there's so much hurt? Will it just end up in a cycle of resentment and retaliation, and turn to an abusive relationship, which is something that other twin flame coaches have actually talked about and I've mentioned before in response to them, which I found really odd. They said something along the lines of, once the relationship becomes abusive, it is your right to say, I'm cutting all of my commitments, my soul contracts that I might have made before I incarnated, before I came down to earth, and just move on. But I don't think, well, this is where I disagree. I don't think a twin flame relationship should be abusive in any way. It might have explosions and they might resemble abuse, but that's only because we get hurt so deeply that there's oftentimes nothing left but to explode and lash out in ways that we have never fathomed we were capable of. But that is not in any way comparable to any other kind of abusive relationship where people are completely spiritually unevolved, refuse to work on themselves, and just keep lashing out, lashing out, lashing out in a space of complete unawareness and refusal to grow as a person. So those are two completely different things. So to say, well, once it gets abusive, you have the right to move out, somehow seems to suggest that any twin flame relationship at some point becomes abusive, and that's when you know, okay, you're done. You can move on. You have reached your personal goal of self-growth and self-awareness and spiritual development, and now you can just mosey off. Of course you can. I'm not saying you cannot, but that is not the sign that you were in a twin flame relationship simply because it turned abusive or toxic. So, what to do though when you have these conflicting emotions? That's really what I wanted to talk about today. These conflicting emotions of wanting to be near your twin flame, yet at the same time wanting to be away, or knowing that you need. Um, this dealing with the dichotomy of emotions. Sometimes, let me give you another example. For instance, when you have really annoying neighbors and you keep working on your resentment towards them because you know everything is just a reflection. So you keep doing your forgiveness work and you respond to them in a kind way, even though sometimes you just want to, knock on the door and just punch them in the face because they annoy you so much and it hurts you so badly. And by because we are actually very sensitive beings as humans, a lot of people might have learned not to be on realizing they're very sensitive. We call these people highly sensitive people or highly sensitive person. And when you have neighbors who know about that and still keep slamming the doors, you really just wonder. Yet, when you keep being jarred by this loud noise, you do have a body, no matter what your spiritual level is. You do have a body, and that responds to stress. So if that is a stressor that hits you because you feel noise physically in your body. It's like somebody sneaking up on you and saying, "Pooh," over and over again every time the door slams. At some point, you just have a normal reaction, stress reaction, which is either fight or flight. So, and if you're stuck in an apartment where you can neither flee because it's so small, there's nowhere to go other than outside in the rain in England, or you know, fight, which just means just letting out your aggression in that moment and just trying to scare them off. There's only so many things you can do. So you keep working on yourself, knowing that you've somehow attracted that. You keep doing the forgiveness. You try and talk to them again in a very kind way. But at the same time, you still harbor those feelings, no matter how much you work on your forgiveness and whatnot. And at some point, you wonder, well, the situation has not changed. I have gotten rid of, well, if not all, at least most of my resentment and whatnot. So why aren't things changing? And this can create a real bad conflict inside of you because it then leads to self-doubt, to self-flagellation, as in, what the hell am I doing wrong? I do everything that I'm supposed to do. I keep working on myself. Why isn't anything working? So there's self-judgment. Then you've been working with the law of attraction, thinking, okay, I'm doing all of this. I'm, focusing not on those things that bother me. I focus on the quiet times in between and milk the hell out of those, like Abraham Hicks tells us to do. Yet nothing happens. So you're frustrated again. You're angry at your neighbors. You're angry at yourself. There's depression setting, and there's all sorts of things while trying to or doing your best. I don't really like the word try. While doing your best to forgive, to stay calm, to meditate, to be in a blissful state of mind. But you still have those opposing emotions going on, and that in itself can drive you crazy because then all these shoulds come into place. Well, I should be doing better. This should be changing. Apparently, I'm doing something wrong. It should be different by now, and it's just a vicious cycle. So it turns out, sorry, I need to drink something. So it turns out that the dichotomy of these emotions in and of itself is another vibration that keeps creating chaos in the universe around you. So when Abraham Hicks, for instance, talks about alignment with yourself, with that part of yourself where everything is perfect, the situation can be considered as perfect. You can bless your crappy money situation. You can bless your annoying neighbors. You can just be fine with whatever is. That is really a major step, but how do you get there? And it applies to twin flame relationships as well. As chaotic as it is, as blissful as you want it to be, it might not be. And the more you think about, okay, it used to be so wonderful, what went wrong? And you're trying to figure out what went wrong, you're trying to heal that, which is all good, but these conflicting emotions are a disturbance in the field. They are a disturbance in your own field. Easily discernible by the fact that it drives you nuts, right? I mean, who isn't driven nuts by this flip-flopping back and forth between certain emotions? Sometimes we're happier just sitting for a day, sitting on the couch for a whole day, just being depressed, but at least it's just one constant emotion instead of trying to flop out of it, being happy, and then something happens and going, oh, again. It can actually be more stressful than just, relaxing into one emotion until it just dissolves. Which brings me to the method of how to dissolve those emotions, how to balance them out, how to resolve the dichotomy between them. So what I did with a client recently was to, and that's what I told them to do, but in the end they needed a bit of help, and I'm going to do that with you here in this coaching call, actually. Some people can sit in meditation and just become aware of all their emotions and then tell themselves that it is all right to feel that emotion, no matter which one it is. So you could start off by saying, it is okay, I have a right to feel jealous. I have a right to feel judgment. And then really feel into that emotion, whether you're judging yourself at that moment, whether you're judging somebody else at that moment, doesn't matter. Just feel into the emotion or what it feels like to be judging and tell yourself it is all right. Because the more we keep beating ourselves up over it, the less likely we are to simply release it. So it's like working towards one direction of forgiving and releasing and letting go, and working in the other direction as well by not actually acknowledging having the emotion. So by sitting and telling yourself, I have a right to feel jealous, and acknowledge the fact that you have a right to feel jealous without actually dwelling on it, other than feeling it to the extent that you need to feel it in order to let go of it, to surrender to it. That's really all you need to do. Surrendering to the emotions that we so adamantly try to work through, cover up, release, and so on. But especially when it comes to dichotomies of emotions, the surrender works really, really well. So let me give you some more examples here. If you want to, you can do this with me. So in meditation, most people sit in a lotus position, or at least with their feet flat on the ground with a straight back, straight spine, so the energy flows better. Close your eyes if you're comfortable and do some deep breathing. And of course, don't do that while you're driving or having to operate something. Do this when you have peace and quiet, especially since there'll be things coming up that you would want to release. So your body might shake a little bit. You might cry. You might get hot or cold flashes. All sorts of things happen. So just roll with it and know that everything is well. So if you're comfortable, go ahead and close your eyes. And then if emotions pop into your head that you would like to resolve and just surrender to and let go, please do so. Otherwise, I'll just talk you through a few right now. So what I did with my client was to say, I have a right to feel jealous. I have a right to love the person anyway. I have a right to be angry. I have a right to forgive. I have a right to shout. I have a right to scream. I have a right to cry. I have a right to be sad. I have a right to experience happiness. I have a right to experience joy. I have a right to experience bliss. I have a right to laugh, and so on. So you notice I don't only use emotions per se. I also paint little mini scenarios. Like I have a right to laugh, and what you would do when or if you were happy. And even though you repeat these emotions, what does not repeat is the scenarios that keep popping into your head. And jealousy can be can have to do with your spouse, with your partner, with your mother, with a colleague who got the promotion. It can be in all sorts of scenarios, and it's still jealousy that comes up. So allowing yourself to actually feel that emotion takes so much pressure off. And even though I mentioned the opposite emotion very often, it's not something you have to do. But what I noticed is that it comes automatically when you do this for yourself, for instance. Once you allow yourself to be angry and just feel into the anger and let it go, it is not that hard anymore to say, I have a right to forgive. And even if you don't feel it, just allowing yourself to have that right to forgive opens the door to actually forgive eventually. If not in that moment, then maybe later. Who cares? You have a right to feel any emotion at any time. You are responsible for your emotions, yes. But that does not mean that you don't have a right to feel them. And I think this is so, so important because we get indoctrinated from early age on to not feel sad. Oh, don't feel sad. It's okay. Like, who says I'm not allowed to feel sad? What the hell? I realize you're trying to help. Parents do that all the time. But really telling another person not to feel something can be so detrimental because they can grow up to feel like they have no right to even feel any kind of emotion. Then the next logical step is, how are they ever supposed to know how to actually shift that emotion? So many people of us try to shift our emotions and wonder why they can't, because they're not even allowed to actually feel the emotion. This is something that I actually had to learn with my coach. As you know, every good coach has a coach, or at least had a coach at some point to move forward themselves. And that's one of the major steps that I was taught. It is okay to feel what you feel. It was like a major revelation to me. And now all of my work is based on actually feeling the emotion and then clearing it. And if you're stuck in a day where everything seems fine, everything is okay, and yet you have a really crappy mood and you just want to cry and you don't really know what's going on, it is usually because you have all these conflicting emotions inside of you and your head cannot even wrap itself around it anymore. Like, you're angry at your neighbors, even though it's quiet right now, you still have this lingering anger there somewhere. And you're working on forgiveness because you've been, you know it's good for you. And still, so what do? You take your time, you go into meditation, as I suggest we always do when we need to, when we cannot deal with 3D life anymore, when you just have to connect back to spirit, have to center in ourselves. And and that might be the point where you need to go ahead and process something. And that is a good way to process. You can also do some tapping on that, which I meant to do today, but we are running a little short on time. Oh, it's 23 minutes, not too bad. So I'm going to show you the tapping round as well. But to get back to the twin flame relationship, when you have this struggle inside, for instance, like you want to be close to this person that you know represents bliss, but at the same time, who is currently at a place on their path where it seems like everything they do is so detrimental to the relationship and to you. How do you deal with those emotions? A lot of people that I know, a lot of twin flame partners just split up completely, if only for a while, and that might be okay, and that might be right in that moment. I'm not judging that at all. But very often, this can even be avoided, if so desired, by just releasing the conflicting emotions and just saying, okay, I have a right to feel this way, because whatever you do does hurt me, and even though it should not hurt me, because I should just be happy no matter what happens in the world, it does hurt me. So I have a right to feel that, and it is okay. At the same time, I feel so close to you and so drawn to you, and I want to be with you, and that it's okay to feel too. And it is okay, I have a right to feel angry about at myself for even wanting to be with you, knowing that currently it is not helpful for me. I also have a right to feel jealous of anybody else who might come into your life if I actually did take some space from you. I have a right to feel overwhelming love every time I think of you. I have a right to feel sad that it's not working out right now. I have a right to feel depressed about our situation because it could be so beautiful and it isn't. I have a right to be frustrated with everything that I've been doing so far, and we're still not where I'd like to be with you. And I have a right to be happy, and I have a right to be angry that I'm not happy right now. And I have a right to be having happy moments in between and have a right to be confused about everything. Just give yourself permission for any and all of your emotions. Keep breathing deeply into your lower tummy and try and surrender to them. Try to, I'm using the word try, simply, I'm just going to say it, allow yourself your emotions. You have a right to your emotions. You have a right to your emotions. So, another thing you can do, as I promised fairly quickly, do some tapping. And I might have to shift the camera a little bit, or at least move it away so you can see. I don't know if you're familiar with the thymus gland. That's about like here. Here's your sternum, here's the beginning of your throat. The thymus gland is about here. You can kind of feel it if you tap along the line here. There's a spot that feels a little more sensitive, and that is where your thymus gland is located. And your thymus gland is your connection to your subconscious. So it helps a lot when you tap this point, or you can also use your karate chop points to tap, or even do a whole tapping sequence, which I will show another time. And do that while you're actually allowing yourself to have those emotions that you're going through. And just keep tapping, breathing deeply, and saying, I have a right to feel jealous, and see what comes up, what kind of scenario comes up, what other emotion comes up. And if you, as I said before, if you keep repeating emotions but with different scenarios, or if you have the same scenario but with different emotions, that is all fine. Just trust that whatever comes up as an emotion, whatever pops into your head as a thought, as a scenario, as a visual, that is exactly what is ready to be released at this point. So I encourage everybody to go ahead and try that and become more centered and become a better friend to yourself by allowing yourself to be who you really are. If at any given time you feel like crap, fine. Allow yourself to feel like crap. If you feel like you just want to shout at the world, fine. Allow yourself to feel that way. Don't necessarily shout at the world. Go somewhere where it wouldn't hurt another person, but allowing the world to be as it is, and allowing yourself to be as you are, is such a great part of the whole forgiveness process that I teach, that sometimes we take it for granted that we just, forgive ourselves for this, forgive others for that. But just to allow all of our emotions is probably the biggest part of all. So I hope this was helpful. I encourage all twin flame couples to try that individually or even together, and sit with each other and say, I allow you to be angry. I allow myself to be hurt by that, and see what that does. That's actually an interesting topic to talk about. I'm gonna try that with a couple of my clients and give you and report back next week. And again, I encourage you to leave comments and share the video. Let me know what you think. Send me questions, suggestions. I'm happy to answer it all. And let me know how you did with the release and surrender process. It'd be really lovely to know. Thank you so much, and until next Monday. Namaste.